Hello, 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 beautiful Patreon members. Welcome to day 5 of our financial fitness challenge. We have so much to crowd in this little bit of time we have, which is 11 days. But I keep telling myself we can't get it all in at one time. We're going to be doing a few more financial challenges in addition to some more money manifesting challenges. So we're going to approach this with a modicum of balance, okay? Yesterday we talked about credit. We talked about credit. Credit, you guys, is one of those things that we pay the cost for having a convenience. Credit cards should be used to increase our financial and economic viability. They allow us to use other people's money to make money if we're smart, but they also create opportunities for us to be able to leverage our buying power. But normally they serve to actually enslave us. For many of us, we have many different ways we interact with money in the marketplace. We save money, we spend money, we can give money, we can invest money, and then we're interacting with money to try to have it to grow. So that may come about as a result of extra income streams or generating another income stream, getting a job. But at the end of the day, if we are trying to change our financial situation and we're trying to save more money, then we actually are spending, because in reality, it's not how much we save or bring in as much as it is how much we hold on to and keep. The only way to do that is to cut expenses, to either earn more money, which you have to do, and to optimize your current spending. So that's what we're talking about today. Optimizing your current spending habits, but understanding how you can do that with your credit cards and really getting a better idea of how your credit card habits and what it is that you have established as a norm as it relates to you and your credit cards, how you're actually sabotaging yourself. So I really want to get into a little bit of that. Before I get into that though, because I want to give you 13 things that I wrote down that you can actually do, I want to first talk about what it means to be a conscious consumer. When you're a conscious consumer, you approach your finances and your spending mindfully. It's the same way we work on mindfulness in terms of our spiritual body, in terms of balance in our life, in terms of the time we, take to meditate, or the time that we take to implement our spiritual practice. We have to be as mindful, because y'all, this is all about spiritual prosperity and material abundance. We have to give the same kind of attention to our finances, and we have to really become conscious consumers, or we have to become more conscious consumers, which means that we have to become more mindful of how we're spending our money, the value it has for us, the functionality of the things that we're bringing in. Is this what we really wanted when you left the house? What is the motivation for why you actually bought this thing? Is it really at the level of value that you want? Is it going to break down because you couldn't get the level, that the quality that you really wanted, and instead you made an emotional purchase and you went on and bought something that in reality is not going to last as long? Like, why are we spending the way that we spend? And really starting to get a handle on that. So I came up with a list of things that I feel would be helpful, that help you to put a pause on prior purchases before you buy something, recognizing the importance of taking a pause. So I wrote several things down. I want to just go over the list. It's important that we train ourselves to pause before a purchase. Why should we pause before a purchase? Because oftentimes, believe it or not, we are buying on impulse and we're buying on emotion. And all of the countless bad decisions you made in the workplace or in your love life, with relationships, whenever you're in an emotional place, you make unhealthy decisions. And it doesn't have to be an emotional place in the sense that you feel so depressed that all you want to do is go spend money, or you're so angry you want to go charge up your lover's credit cards, or something crazy like that. An emotional purchase can be something that in a very subtle way sneaks up on you, and before you know it, you can't really identify the motivation for why you spent something, or the motivation for why you actually left out of the house and exceeded what was on your list, or the motivation for why you get home and you have 10 bags instead of 3, or the motivation for why you went to Walmart instead of maybe going to a store where you had less options, less choices, and you knew you could get in and get out with what it is that you went to go get in the first place instead of coming out with a million other things. So really being able to put a pause on purchases, okay? Asking yourself, first training yourself to pause before you purchase anything, including things that we get on Amazon, okay? Amazon has become too much of a family member in my home in the last few years, but I have definitely put a pause on Amazon because it used to be a time, you all, where you had to leave the house in order to spend money. So if you stayed home, you were okay. That's not the case today. You see those Amazon delivery trucks and the Walmart trucks, FedEx, USPS, all over the place today. So that's not going to solve your problem. As a conscious consumer, as a conscious spender, you have to start disciplining yourself to pay attention to your spending habits, especially as they relate to credit cards, because there are 13 things that I'm going to go over, and I'm going to try to keep this video short, which is why I'm going to be moving quickly. So training yourself to pause before spending, asking yourself, what is this purchase about? Is this a necessity? Is this something I have to have? Is it a want? Okay, rather than a need? Is this something that I can postpone to a later date? Another thing, third thing, a wish list. I love doing that on Amazon. Instead of actually purchasing the product the way I used to, now I put it on my wish list. That way I satisfy that urge. You'd be surprised the satisfaction you get from having several different wish lists and putting things on a wish list and delaying gratification, because spending is also very much about immediate gratification. Next, number 4, determining your motivation for the purchase. Getting in touch with what you're feeling. People shop when they're happy. They shop when they're sad. They shop when they're disappointed. They shop when they have anxiety. They shop when they're depressed. They shop in reaction to something else that's going on, or in reaction to someone else, what someone else is doing to them. So really starting to pay attention to, what is this purchase about? If this is not on my list and this is not what I went to the store for, and I'm leaving the house with my wallet to go spend money or my credit cards, what is this purchase about in the first place? All right. Putting things you want. I already talked about that on the wait list. And then also, price checking. When you are someone that has developed a habit of checking prices and comparatively shopping, you seldom ever will buy something without comparatively shopping. And all you're really doing is putting some wait time in between the purchase, putting it in your cart, and the money leaving your wallet. Any kind of wait time that you can put in place of something that is impulsive. It's just like when people argue and you have people that have anger management problems and they fly off the handle, right? If they could begin to discipline themselves, to give themselves some wait time, just to take a few deep breaths, okay? Just to detach from the impulse to respond or the impulse to react, oftentimes they're better equipped, because once you're stressed out and you're acting on emotion, you're going to make decisions to purchase things that are not in your own best interest. So anything that you can do to create wait time. So checking the price at another store, running to another store. These are all things that you can do that will allow you to add a little bit of extra wait time, a little extra space in there. Next but not least, as I already talked about, don't leave the house unless you make a list. Doesn't matter where you're going. And as you're making that list, the list in and of itself is not enough. Look at your list, mindfully check the list, and make a commitment to yourself that I'm not going to buy anything that's not on this list. Even if I get to the store and I say, oh my gosh, I forgot we needed this. Train yourself to come on home. You'd be surprised, the things that we think we need are often the things that we want. Okay, let's dig into the credit right now. We already talked about we paying for the convenience. There's a high cost to the convenience of credit cards. So I've come up, credit card usage. So I have come up with 13 different tips that I want to give you, that I want you to begin to conceptualize about today and allow yourself to receive this information so that you can begin to reorganize energetically the way you look at credit cards. Because remember, knowledge has infinite organizing power. As we learn more, we become empowered on a subtle level. And then as we get in touch with what we already know on a subtle level, we become more empowered on a larger scale. So as a part of this activity, what I want you to do is just open your mind up to these suggestions. Now, you may already have some credit card habits that you have that are working for you. If it's working for you and it's not broke, don't fix it. But these are surely some things that you could probably benefit from. The first thing that I want you to remember, first and foremost, is that if you cannot save, you have no business using a credit card. Period. With a T on the end. If you cannot save, you have no business using a credit card, because you can't use a credit card wisely because you are not saving. It's not to say that there aren't purchases that we need to put on a credit card, but if you're not saving, that's a sign to you that you have no business using a credit card. And if you're using a credit card anyway and you're not saving, let that nail home to you the gravity of the motivation that you need to deal with this situation. Okay. The first thing, first and foremost, negotiate your credit card interest rates. I don't care how long you've had them. There are templates and letters online that you can use, scripts that you can say when you call these credit card companies. Negotiate your interest rates. Do you know that less than 25% or roughly 25% of people negotiate their interest rates? And the difference of 1 point, even a few percentage points, is the difference between tens and tens of thousands of dollars over time, depending upon what the percentage points are speaking to. In this case, we're talking about credit cards. So negotiate, negotiate, negotiate. Shop around. Number 2, watch promotional purchases. This is where they get you. Those 6 months no interest or a year no interest. The reason why you want that is because you can purchase something and you can pay it off and avoid hundreds and or thousands of dollars in interest. So keep a running log, a tally of when the promotional purchase deadline is coming up. When you get something on a promotional purchase with a credit card, you should already be thinking about, how am I going to pay this off prior to the resolution of the promotional purchase? Because when that promotional purchase comes in, hundreds of extra dollars are going to come in like this, and you can't, very seldom will you be able to renegotiate that with a credit card company, because they want you to pay that fee. They don't want you to pay that promotional purchase off early. As a matter of fact, you may find that if you get in the habit of paying promotional credit cards off earlier, they'll lower your limit or they'll boot you off altogether. You will be shocked, because that's where they get their money from. Next, when you intend to pay off a credit card, pay off the entire balance. Meaning, okay, let's say you got a $1,500 credit card and you're throwing money at it. I believe in throwing money at debt, meaning taking every extra amount of money that you have and just putting it on that debt. Boom, boom, boom. You got several streams of income. Boom, it's going on just that card. It's going on this card. Blah, 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 blah. We talked about the different ways that you can pay off your cards in the previous video on credit cards. But what I'm talking about here is, let's say you have a card that has a $2,000 balance and you're in the process of paying it off. And for some reason, you get to that last payment and you decide, okay, I'm just going to leave a few dollars on there. I don't know. Maybe you have some mythic idea of how a credit card having some level of balance on it is going to benefit you. And so what happens is you leave, say, $100 or $200 on there, or even $5 or $6, and you're charged the entire interest rate for what the previous balance was prior to that payment. Those are not things you want to do. So as you're throwing money at cards, make that final payment be the payment that takes the card out of circulation. Okay. Next, penalties and fees. Make sure you know what the triggers are for penalties and fees. Over the credit limits, how much are they? What are the penalties? If you go over the limit, or if you pay late one time, is that going to jack you up from 15% up to 28%? These things are important. It's important to know what the penalties are, because generally speaking, the average credit card interest rate is 15 to 16%. In times of economic crunch, that becomes the rate for people that have A1 credit, okay? And so your credit card rates can easily exceed that amount. And before you know it, even if you had a decent interest rate, you can lose that privilege by making a late payment or even by going over your limit. So make sure you read what's in between the lines, okay? Never put incidentals, foods, and luxury items on credit cards. Credit cards should be reserved for large purchases. That's 7, I think. Credit cards should be 6. Credit cards should be used for large purchases that you can pay off and that you have a plan for paying off. You do not want to put fast food or a night out with dinner on a credit card and be paying for it 3 years later. It's just not wise, okay? Number 6, set up automatic payments. That's actually 7, I'm sorry. Set up automatic payments. Why set up automatic payments? I'm not a proponent of automatic payments for everything, but setting them up for credit cards is wise because it keeps the late fees at bay. You don't have to worry about it. And you can also set up automatic payments at additional increments so that you're throwing money at it. And what happens when you do that? Your average daily balances are lower. And those are what the credit agencies look at when they look at who's a good credit risk and who is not. Ideally, they want you to be at about 10% of whatever your revolving credit account is, your limit is. So what that says is that keeping your limits at about 10%, no more than 20% makes you look better on paper. So as you're throwing money at it, or as you are making sure that the payments that are coming out are automated, you're aligning with whatever your goals are, and you're ensuring that that gets done above and beyond anything else. When you get paid, it's such a good habit to take care of first things first. You're first. You pay yourself first. But after you pay yourself first, go ahead and put the money where the money belongs, okay? Your savings, your emergency fund. Maybe you have a short-term savings, a long-term savings. You're definitely your emergency fund. And then take care of the things that you have to take care of in terms of bills. If you aren't able to do that, then pay yourself something first. I don't care how small it is. It could be $10, $20 a month. Okay, every penny first became $1 before it became a $100 bill, and before that became a $1,000 bill. Okay, so these things are really, really, really important. So the next one, number 8, is, and I mentioned that already previously, number 7, only using your cards for large purchases and having a payoff plan. The next one, number 8, leave your cards at home. If you don't have the discipline, leave them at home. If you don't have the discipline to go in the drawer and get them out, then cut them up. Whatever you do, don't close out the card, because that actually affects your credit in an adverse way. Number 9, look at an extra stream of income. If you are trying to throw money at credit cards and you're really serious about it, it might mean you take on an extra stream of income. For some people, that could mean work. For other people, it could mean generating an extra income source. It could be a yard sale. It could be creating an online course. It could be starting a YouTube channel. It could be a whole lot of stuff. It could be getting a job at Walmart and knowing that if you work an extra 20 hours a week, you're going to bring in an extra couple of $300. And by doing that, after a month's time, you could conceivably have anywhere from $900 to $1,200 extra cash to throw on something. It's something temporary, but it also makes you feel good about honoring whatever your intentions are for trying to resolve debt and get out of debt. So this is really important. The other thing I wanted to say about that, which is something I do, which is earmarking certain streams of income. Earmarking a certain stream of income to go specifically for that particular item and nothing else. Period. Doesn't matter what it is. Let's say, for example, I do spiritual mentoring. I do life coaching. I have an online school. I just posted a class on a public, I'm gonna say public domain, for an extra stream of income. I split my services also between Reiki, hypnosis. Then there is the tarot reading, and then there are other things too. But let's look at this. Suppose I say each month all of my tarot reading income is going directly towards a specific place. It's a great way to organize in your mind, and when the money comes in, there is no question about where it's going to go. And typically that's what happens, that space in between when the money comes in and the decision we need to make and what we actually end up doing. Next, transfer balances if you can. Now, this is what is important about that. It's similar to those promotional offers. It has a deadline to it. It has a timeline to it. Let's say, for example, not too long ago, I was offered a credit card that I took, which vowed not to use. That particular card has a nice sizable, not balance, but a credit limit on it. That card has 1 year of no interest or no fees whatsoever, not just on a transferred balance, but on any purchases that I make. So you have to ask yourself, what is their motivation for that? Well, you have to think about it. If they can get me to spend up all that money and under the guise of, oh, I won't have to pay this, start paying this for a whole year, or I won't have to start accruing any interest for the whole year, the same would be the same as if you transferred a balance from a interest-bearing credit card, not an interest-bearing credit card, but a credit card that had a higher interest rate. Let's say the store credit cards typically have a little bit of higher interest rate. You transfer a balance from Best Buy over to a Wells Fargo credit card, right? And you now, that balance is no longer incurring interest, all right? So you move it over, but you don't pay it off. Similar to you add those charges because you think that you don't have to pay interest on them for a year and a half, and then you look up and the year and a half is approaching and you haven't paid it off. That interest is coming back to bite you. So watch transferring those balances. Transfer them when you can, but if you transfer them, make sure you pay them off during that time so that you can actually benefit. If it's not a transfer balance and it's based upon new charges, make sure you're paying that card off and you're throwing money at it. Number 11, we already talked about, don't cancel credit cards. When you cancel your credit cards, it actually works adversely on your credit report. Number 12, these are for worst case scenarios. You feel overwhelmed with your credit card debt. Consider debt consolidation. You typically get a lower interest rate, although sometimes you are penalized in the sense that you have to cut up your cards. You can't use them anymore. But most cases that I'm aware of, those debt consolidation situations actually increase your credit rating. All right. As a absolute last resort, if your situation is just very overwhelming, you may want to consider bankruptcy. I know bankruptcy has a negative stigma. In some instances, it is the only thing to do. It has a negative stigma. I'm going to say, since I got this book beside me, I wonder what he would say about bankruptcy, because the rich have no problem filing for bankruptcy. It's the poor working people and the middle class people that see a stigma. The history of bankruptcy in this country was to allow people to get a fresh start. And the reality is, if you are struggling to pay all of your credit cards, filing for bankruptcy frees you up. You'd be surprised your credit score will go up 50 to 70 points within the first year simply because, and you will get credit card offers. You'd be surprised. Do the research. You will get credit card offers and a chance to reestablish yourself, which is one of the reasons why under the Bush administration, it became so much more difficult to actually file for bankruptcy. If you have a home already and you have a car and you don't see the need to be financing anything and you are overwhelmed, there's a certain type of bankruptcy that you can file. I believe it's a 7 that allows you to keep your car, that allows you to keep your home. So there are options. There's no need to lose your mental well-being and your health over a credit card situation where sometimes a pulling back will allow you to gain your bearings and reassess what your financial habits are in the first place. So just don't totally rule that out. And then last but not least, use all of your card benefits. Some of our cards have frequent flyer miles, they have cash rewards, they have loss protection, they have price matching. There's just so many benefits that these cards have. Use those benefits. Look at your benefits summary. Ask yourself, do you know which cards gives you points or perks for what purchases? If you don't know that information, then you may not take advantage of that information. If you're someone, for example, who can charge all of your utilities each month on your credit card just to get the cash back in the points because you know that you're going to pay them all off by the end of the billing cycle. You're going to pay them off within that 28, 38, 30-day cycle. Then that's good for you. But at the same time, do not use a credit card to get the points. Do you know how many countless people will talk about all the frequent flyer miles that they have as a result of charging up maybe their Discover card or their Citibank Visa card, and the things that they use to charge it up with, they're still paying for 6 months, 9 months, 14, 18, 24 months later. They never paid it off. So the interest ate up any potential benefit that they ever could have gotten. So I hope that this information has been useful to you. I hope that it has helped you to gain clarity, to up-level your mindset. to clear and heal some emotional blockages that you may have as it relates to money, and to begin to manifest more financial abundance in your life. You're with Tanisha Ali. I love all of you all. Thank you, family. I will see you on the other side of those coins as we look at some accompanying activities that go along with this particular aspect of what we learned today.